Hello my friends, welcome back for another shave. It's in January. I've got the window open and cat in the window, and we are using Stirling Hipster today. Razor, Blackland Vector, because it's right here. And this is probably the first in a while, actually. Neat stuff happening in 1776, which is great because, you know, it's 2026, so we're right in our Revolutionary War 250th anniversary stuff. And today, January 10th, is the day that Thomas Paine's Common Sense was released. This is a pamphlet, shortish, 40-something pages. Pretty direct and is written in a kind of style. It was discussed. It was a big seller. I mean, I don't know if it's they call it a commercial success but they sure did crank out a lot of copies of it. And you can get transcribed copies of Common Sense even today. You can get it for free on archive.org or in print. Pretty much if you Google it, it'll be there. It's pretty good. Used to be back in the day that we read it in social studies. I can't remember what grade it was. I wish my memory would hold up a little better, but yeah, I'm getting old, so I forget these things. I remember reading it in either grade school or early middle school. And it had I dropped some foam on my phone. Let's move this out of the way so I don't cause any trouble. We're beginning. This Stirling Hipster is a marvelous soap. That's all of his soaps are. And lathers easily, gives you good coverage, great slickness. It's a soap to grab when you don't know what you want. And let's start shaving about this. Now, to get ready for this shave, I knew I was going to talk about this. I actually tried to get, I pulled up a copy of Common Sense and I tried to read it. And I gotta tell you, it's a tough read. It's not an easy kind of a piece to read because it was written in a different era. Modern reading, modern articles like that, you have an idea, you state your premise or what you're going for, what you want to say, and then you support that argument. Common Sense is written a little different. You don't really know early on. I didn't get very deep into it before I gave up. You don't really know what you're reading when you first start, because it was in those days, and maybe the audience that this is targeted for was you know, you kind of starts talking and rambling on, without, and it's kind of leading you in a discussion, which is how this was meant to be. So it was, a lot of people would get around, and the people who could read would read it, and probably this was meant to be read aloud, and then you discuss it. And so you say, well, what's the bottom line of common sense? And well, when you get down to it, it leaves that on the pretty squarely in the reader's lap, what it's all about. Certainly can tell that he has ideas about whether America should be free or independent or not. Certainly does. But at the same time, I think it makes a lot of assumptions that you already know what he's talking about. So you can't go in going, what's this all about? You got to go in reading it with kind of knowing what's going on. So it probably made sense in 1776 because people read differently. They read slower. You know, a little bit of time reread because, well, you know, they didn't have television. They didn't formulate quite as quickly as we do these days. And I think maybe it allowed people to say things out loud that they're thinking, but you won't say it unless you got people around talking about the same thing. And that was where I think the big impact of common sense, January 10th, 1776, it allowed people to, and maybe it's known as a trigger. Oh, what am I doing? I need to get some alum on me. It was a trigger point. People talking about, we were reading, they would say we were reading common sense. And they passed these, you know, you don't just buy a pamphlet, you bought it and you passed it on. We were talking about it and this is what we thought. And then another discussion. Because they didn't have TV, so they had to do something to entertain themselves. And man, got a lot of people thinking in the direction of independence. And that's where Thayer's Lemon comes in. Things are really coming to a boil. There had been bullets, there's been lives and blood shed already in our revolution, but there's still, the door is still open to still remain a colony. But sober discussions, dissertations, I think people in those days, they were way more advanced in the English language than we are today. I was reading, in doing this series, I end up reading a lot of people's letters and correspondence, and these people wrote on a much higher level of prose than we do today. It's really something. I feel kind of lagged behind, but that's for another story. I'm Major Rich. You find me at theshavingcutter.com. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe if you're so inclined, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.